see. And back then, to get data in and out of it, I used these web methods tools. It's just basically that no code, low code stuff that'll grab data and then import it and all that stuff. Pretty simple stuff. But fast forward to today, now we have like Sitecore Connect. We have a lot more integration from Sitecore to Content Hub. But what I wanted to do was do something a little bit different. I wanted to do something where I can kind of use my own components, kind of do my own custom stuff. Didn't have to worry about setting up like an automated process. So something that kind of integrates directly with Content Hub. So they did a little research, and then someone suggested external components. So nice thing about external components is they use React and JS, all that good stuff, all the new stuff that we're doing for XM Cloud and all that stuff. So it was also a learning opportunity. I didn't do too many things with React, and React is basically just a framework. It was made by or created by Meta, Facebook, like the same company. So I kind of went down that rabbit hole. The first thing I did was do a quick like Hello World application, but then I found that there's other starter kits, and let me show you those real quick. So there were two that I found. There was one that a developer put out where you can just add these different components and
Sorry to interrupt, Rob. Are you sharing your screen?
Oh, yep. Let me do that real quick. Sorry. That would be important. I don't have like a physical presentation, so I'm actually showing code and it's a live demo. So
yeah, sure.
So yeah, so there were two starter kits that I found. And I also found the example as well online where someone walked me through it. So that was the first thing I did. I walked through the example and just did a simple hello world. And let me go into the Content Hub real quick, and I'll show you one of the assets. And then I'll talk about a little bit how this is all gets put on here. So this part here on the right that you see here, these are all created by external components. And I'll show you the video asset too as well, because I got one for that. And basically to get there, you have to create a React component. And Content Hub is already set up to integrate with those. So it's pretty easy to use. And with these examples that were out here, so we had this one starter kit that we use, and then we had another one by Style Labs. Both do different things. And they both do the same, but they both do different things the way they're set up. So the first thing I want to do is just do a simple component and show you how that works. Hopefully these are famous quotes, but I grabbed some quotes. They're supposed to be famous. Let's see, I'll grab this one here. So keep in mind with React, it's pretty simple. I won't go into like every single part of the code, but there is a part where HTML is rendered, and that's kind of where you want to put all your stuff. And I'll go into some of the other stuff like how that integrates, but I just wanted to start with a simple example here. So if you look on this example, he has a bunch of components here. He has an API example. I've been working on, actually, this is my API example I've been working on. But he has a client example, component example, content example, and then just a simple. So I'm going to use a simple. I'm going to put this quote in there. And if you're familiar with Gulp or anything like that, you just want to, you can build it and then it'll compile to JS bundles, and I'll show you how those are used. Or you can just run it, and it's run like locally, like as a web address, and the bundle is kind of served up from the web server. So I'm just going to run it as a service. Let that run for a few seconds here. Okay. So here's my local host that it's running on. So if we went there, let me click on the link here. Show you what that looks like. The nice thing about bundling all this stuff is you don't have to reference the libraries. Everything gets kind of bundled into that one bundle. So the way like Content Hub looks at it is like I have this one bundle and this is all I need to run this component. And in this example, I'm going to be using the web server to do it. But you can actually take that simple React.js and bundle that like as an asset and upload it into the Content Hub. And I'll show you that too as well. So yeah, and when it does bundle, it puts it in this distributor folder. So here's all the bundles and stuff. So if you wanted to, you can just run. I'll show you how to bundle it, but when it runs, it compiles and puts it in here, and then you can upload that to the Content Hub. So here's the URL with the JS, and here's all the code in there. You know, obviously we just updated that one part, but this is all the stuff that it needs to render. So I'll start from how to get in here. If you're not familiar with the Content Hub, you basically have access to all the structure, all the data that's in there. So like anything that's in the DAM or the CMP, all that stuff's structured, and you can change it out. In this case, we're going to go to Pages, and I want the asset details page. And as you can see, it has all the different parts of it. So if you go to an asset detail, you know, here's all the different parts. Here's the pages. Down here is where I started putting the components, and a couple down here as well. But this one we're going to use, and I got it set up. It's going to use the URL that we just created with it's running right now, the simple React.js. And then it's basically going to call that and then just render it. Real simple, because it's just one word, one div, one piece of text. So I'll refresh this one. Oh, got to make sure we see it first. It's hidden. Okay. So now I'm going to refresh it, and you'll see it. And you can hide these obviously too, so it's just kind of nice. So here we go. Now it's at the bottom. You know, easy. It shows it. But after I did the first hello world and I got the stuff there, I was thinking, well, this is cool, but I kind of really want to be able to take an asset and get that information passed to the React component. Because kind of, yeah, it's okay. Yeah, I show this wording, but what if I want to do something with it or display it or, you know, whatever I want to do? You know, send it to an API and retrieve more information about this asset. So go here on Pages. I think it's this one. Oh, let me find the right one here. Okay. So this is a bundle. This was an asset that's uploaded directly to Content Hub. It's the JS. So here's client example JS. It adds for whatever reason, when you upload it, it adds like a GUID to it. But you can pass properties to it, and I want to pass a title. So And I knew that the wording was the title because, let me fix it here, find it. This guy, okay. So there's this API directly from the Content Hub, and all the stuff from Content Hub, it does render as JSON, so you do have access to it. But you can see different things you can send over to use. And basically title was one of them. I could send modified on as path enabled, stuff like that. But you can send in a bunch of stuff over, and it's not just one thing. It's yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff you can bundle. Think of it as like you still have the context, like you have a Sitecore item, you still have the context of a Content Hub, and to accomplish that, go here. Let me find it. This one. Well, let's do an example. Okay. Let's use this one as an example because I have this one out. So to accomplish that, you're just passing it in. Here's entity and user, and then we're just printing it out, and that's this one. Here's the user, and here's the entity ID. So you can pass those right in. This one's like a query you can do, real simple. But going back to some of these here, let me show you each of the right ones. I have these two libraries open here. Yeah, this is a good example here. To get some of the properties, you'll need the SDK, and there is a SDK for the Content Hub, and that's all in these examples out there. This one gets the theme, but it also hooks on the entity saved. So if like we come here and then we edit something, just add we add another color. We hit save. You'll see this pop up, NDID with 301 and definition M asset was saved. So that gets done here. It gets hooked in with the SDK, and then you have this entity saved on there as well. So there is ways to interact with the actual data on there. So it's not just, here's a piece of text or here's something separate. You can actually integrate with the actual asset. And let me show you a little bit more here. Let me go back to where you load these assets. So we have the link asset. So that one we can do directly on the page. We just create an external component and then we add that. But if we wanted to do an asset that's hosted into the Content Hub, we would upload it here. So I have a bunch in here right now. Then they're all from the examples. And when you do the examples, I'll show you. So here, I'll stop this. Stop this from running, and then I'll do the bundle. So I do npm run build portal. What this will do is build those assets so I can upload them to the Content Hub. It doesn't take too long, so let's give it a minute here. but yeah, so there's two ways to do it. So if you have someone that just wants to host it on their own server, then you could definitely do that. So, but if you want to just build and upload it, you can do it that way. Now, hosting it gets the changes right away, but obviously with a bundle, um, yeah, you got to upload the changes in there. So it compiled them. So any changes here, they're in here, and then you would just go into um, Content Hub and then load it from your device, wherever they exist. And if you do it, you can also do it from link as well too, but you can do it directly from the external component if you're going to use a link. So that's pretty simple, like how the assets are uploaded, how the pages interact. You have the two different ways. Take my notes here. A couple other things I wanted to show you too as well, and this was new for me, so I would assume it's new for other. This is using TypeScript, and TypeScript allows it's a little bit easier as far as like IntelliSense goes and everything, but when this compiles, it gets compiled into a JS file. So this content example is up here as a JS, and if we look at it, here's the whole asset. So it does help, just to have that option. Now the other thing is too, I discovered too, especially with this example, is that they made the point of not everyone's going to have the Content Hub. We have it, we're a partner, we have it, and so we can use it. But if you don't have it, they have the storybook module here. And I haven't used it a lot, but you can put test data in there and test your components with that. Wait till it loads. Oh, so here you go. So there's different, so these are like component buttons that you can add, if you wanted to display those. Takes a second to load here. So you can actually, with the starter kit, it actually gives you like different stuff you can add to your React component. So here's a simple button. So you can view what it looks like. They have input fields. But here's the modules. So this kind of gives you, so you can put in user data. Here's the code. It shows what's being passed. So you do get at least a very simple, you'll be able to kind of test it. Here's what we just put in. It's running. So this is kind of nice because if you're a React developer and you don't want to really mess with the Content Hub, or the Content Hub is down, because it is something that's hosted. So it does go down every once in a while. So 2 a.m. for us, it seems to shut off. I had to turn it back on this morning. So yeah, so that's the simple way to run it. Shut that down. All right, let me make sure it's different. Okay. So one of the things too when I first showed this was, okay, everyone's like, okay, this is cool, the external components, I get how to do this. There's a starter kit, I can mess around with it. But everybody wanted to know about the Content Hub, so I wanted to take you through some of that as well, especially if you haven't seen it before. So let's start. We're going to actually start with uploading an asset. So first thing you want to do when you upload an asset is create it. So we're just going to add. See here. I'm going to start just with a simple image. Now, hopefully the AI will work on this. I don't know how well it works, but because this was just, it's been there for a while, but it was kind of been used more, a little bit more updated is, the AI of when you upload an image, it's supposed to automatically tag it. So it's supposed to view it and see it and then, just tag it. So right now it's processing. And it might not tag it. I've run it before and it doesn't do anything, but um, you still have to add your tag. But sometimes it works. I'll get to your questions too. Here. All right, so it uploaded. So let's take a look. Hmm, it's still thinking about it. I see this failed thing because we don't have the server running right now. It did figure out similar assets, so that's good. But we're going to submit this for approval. So whenever you do this in Content Hub, you create something and then someone else reviews it, or you review it, I guess, if you're the admin. It'll eventually appear here, hopefully. Oh, it's still there. Let's see. Well, eventually it gets there. Well, we'll wait for that. Hopefully it shows up. All right, there we go. We can look at jobs while they're processing, but usually this is quicker. So we're going to we'll pretend we looked at it, and then now we're just going to approve it. So eventually it'll be there. In the meantime, while that's processing, finishing up, I'm going to add another asset, which is going to be a video asset. So same process. It's going to take a little bit, but let's go over to assets and see if the one we just uploaded is there. There's a little AI search. There's a little button there. Oh, so there it is. So when you open it, it gets all the little components and stuff. It did, it figured out similar assets, so that's good. At least it figured out the ball and all that. So normally it's supposed to tag as well, but doesn't mean it will. I'm gonna run this thing here real quick. Run the server to get so it gets these assets here, or gets these components. Yeah, we can change the title. Change it. We'll see the little pop up, and then we'll see the title change over here to Cricut Player. So it is real time. It's nice that it integrates with the external components right away. The idea is, like, let's say you did upload this you had something about this cricket player. You had the name, let's say. You can take an API, take that person's name, send it to that API, and maybe get more information here about that person that's not in, Content Hub. I think the server should be running now. Yeah, so there's our little quote. So let's check on video. Now, video asset display is a little bit different than you would normally see. I'm probably spelling this wrong, but all right, we're going to submit this one for approval. Oh, see, this one was quicker. All right, so we're going to go back to assets. Videos are easy because there's only so many. And just for the record, I didn't upload all these images. A lot of these were when you create the Content Hub, you have an option of pre-filling it. So that's what I was able to do with this. So most of these are not my image. Some of them are, but all right. So when we go to the video opens. Now down here, this is an external component that I added. This was in one of the starter kits. Real simple. It just grabs the video URL and puts it into a player here. And then you can play it down here. Let's see. See which one starter kit that was in. That was in, yeah, preview, this one here. Yeah, so this one was pretty simple. Has a button. It gets the information for the video player, and then it just downloads it. Now this uses the entity, which is being passed in. So this one's very simple. So this is, think of it as kind of like the Sitecore context. It gets that information from the assets entity, and then it just gets the video and then puts a player button on. This one's real simple, but obviously it's pretty cool how it works. Keep in mind all the entities. Let's find it here. Anything actually in Content Hub, it's JSON. So yeah, so here's an example. It's usually API entities, name of your sandbox or Content Hub, and then this has all the information here about that asset, and I think all this should be available to the backend components. So, but yeah, it's all pretty simple. None of this is exposed. The internet, you have to do public links, so you use direct links or whatever just to grab it, to get it, and all that. So, so yeah, pretty simple. Let me so that's kind of like in a nutshell the Content Hub, the basics, and then like the external components, how those kind of work. I know it was like a real high level and quick, but definitely use the starter kits to get going and just walk through some of the examples, especially if you're new to React. Let me look at some of the questions here. All right. We'll get a lot of questions. Yes, the repos are available in GitHub. Let me paste those in the chat real quick. So the first one I'm going to paste is that one. This is that's the one that the examples, and then They had the one from Style Lab, which I gotta find here. Yeah, it's this one here. Here's the one from Style Lab. Okay. So let me go through the questions here.
So Rob, do you want me to narrate it if that's easier for you?
What was that?
I said, like, do you want me to narrate the questions to you if that's
Yeah.
easier?
Yeah, I mean, either way, I can just go through them and read them here too.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, then we can continue here. Like, if you want to switch the screen, then I'll narrate from the next question.
Okay. Yeah, we can do that. That's fine. Let me go to the Content Hub here and then
Yeah. So the next question is, any external page components created in version before 4.2.0, does it stop working when we upgrade it to 4.2.0 and up, or needs to recreate it?
that's a real good question. As far as I know, it'll still work. It's supposed to be backwards compatible. But we are using SaaS products, so a lot of times when I'll log into Content Hub, I'll get a pop-up that says, "Hey, we just installed this new version," and it'll go through the list. So there is a chance it might be broken, but as far as I know, I haven't seen it. It's usually backwards compatible. Where you might see something break is if they change the JSON structure of an asset. Um, I've seen that once, a couple of years ago. Um, but for the most part, they should still work. It's supposed to be backwards compatible, but hopefully that doesn't become an issue because you don't control the updates really because being a SaaS product, that just you just don't get that control.
Thanks. I think you have, I'm just narrating the next question. You have already shown it, but I'll still ask you that one. How to deploy this code in Content Hub as its software as a service product?
Yep. So yeah, so it was in those assets. So if you have a bundle, you would do it in this portal assets. Um, and then like when you get to pages, whatever, you don't have to put it on. You can put it on whatever page you want in the Content Hub, but I use asset details. That's like the well-known one. But yeah, so you just add a component here and then search for external. And then you click on this, and then this gives you the choice. So you can do it from a URL, or you can just say from an asset, and then just grab whatever's that you've uploaded. So yeah, so there's different ones. So using the URL, it's always up to date on your end. You don't have to worry about re-uploading it again. So I don't know what the best practice is, but yeah, I guess it depends on how you want to do it.
Yeah. Perfect. So next question is very generic. It's not related to the topic maybe. What's the difference between Content Hub DEM, Content Hub Operations, and Content Hub 1?
Well, Content Hub 1 is completely different. And so it's kind of a weird name that it was called Content Hub 1, just because it is a different product. It's not a DAM. It's kind of like a lighter version of XM Cloud. And from what I heard recently, that they're going to kind of roll that into XM Cloud. What I was hearing from the symposium. So, because there is some confusion, like when you search for help on Content Hub, sometimes Content Hub 1 comes up. So it is different than this. This is a DAM. This is, campaign management. kind of thing. So definitely different. So yeah, I think keep that.
That's a good
keep
news
in mind.
that it is getting. Yeah, that's a good news that it's rolling out into XM Cloud.
Yeah, it's it kind of reminded me of like a Xbox naming convention where it was kind of like, it was very similar, but yeah, definitely different.
Yeah.
And the Content Hub operations, I'm not sure what you mean from that is just.
Yeah, no worries. Like we can move to the next one. The next one is, can we create component in knockout.js?
That is a good question. I started looking into that. Most of the examples are using TypeScript and then compiling in JS. There are examples out there with just JS. I thought, no, I think I used TypeScript too. I was going to say, I thought I had, let me double check it. I think it was TypeScript as well, but I did my first example. Thought that might have been, but I don't think it is. This one. Yeah, this is TypeScript too. So most of the examples are going to be TypeScript. I've tried to do it with JS. So you have to have the right bundling and setup to do it. I think TypeScript was preferred just because it's just easier to code with it. You get a little more IntelliSense and stuff. So that's why I see most of the examples. But from what I understand, and I did talk to somebody else about this before, is from what I understand, you can do JS, but not a lot of people have set it up that way yet.
Okay, thank you. So next question is how to debug this code in case of getting any issues or problem. So that's more related to the JS one.
Yeah, so that's that's a great question. That gets a little more difficult. Because like in Visual Studio, you can usually you can set a breakpoint and all that. I haven't been able to do that. I know, like, let's see if I could find an example here. Maybe under this one. Yeah, this guy, I think. Let me open. Just closed it. Okay, hold on here. You could put defensive coding in there. Let me see if I could find an example here. Oh, yeah. So here's an example. I mean, it's not the best, but so let's say it's expecting that property name I showed earlier, the title. But if it's not set, then you're going to get a not set displayed on the screen. I mean, it's very simple, but yeah, unfortunately, I haven't found a good way to debug this stuff, to hook it up and debug it. Locally, maybe with that debugging tool, you'll be able to do it, but directly from the Content Hub, I haven't seen a way to do it. So it's kind of like really old school where you might have to use like print statements or stuff like that. Like right now, like the API I've been trying to do, I just get a just an error on here, fail to load, and well, that's because it's not running, but still, um, I don't get much as far as error code. So yeah, that's one thing that gets a little more difficult to do.
Sure. So thanks Divya. Like Divya is going into the chat and answering some of the questions, I think, for us. Then the next question is, there is a C Sharp SDK available as well for Content Hub. Can we use C Sharp to achieve the same result?
I haven't tried it, but I don't see why not, as long as as long as it's able to use the asset the same way. That I haven't tried. I know you can do like with action scripts. There's ways of doing stuff with C Sharp. Action scripts usually get they're over here in the go here. So you have actions, and then if I'm action scripts, no, over here. You have these things that are kind of close to that, but I haven't used. So here's like a example of someone did this, but this is all internal stuff, so you're not really you don't really have access to like a lot of external libraries on this. Just what was ever imported into Content Hub. So yeah, I don't know. Try it and let me know if it works or not.
Yeah. In case of integrating any external service in new component, how to do authentication?
So you're talking about like if the user's logged in or not, or like when you mean authentication, you're talking about
Maybe a handshaking, like if there is a API call or something, validating the API.
oh, okay.
It's part of the external thing.
Yeah, that's so it's part of the Content Hub API, that's part of the SDK, and that gets kind of like imported that way. So there's not really much on that you can do, but that shit's kind of built in a way. But if you're talking about an external API, I'm working on that. But that should be the same way you would do any React component, where you'd call an external API, and then you get the information.
Yeah, perfect. The next question is about content migration. So during the content migration process, how to avoid content duplication and inconsistency?
That's a good question. I haven't done too much content migration. You want to make sure. So they use a Excel CSV spreadsheets a lot of times, like at least in the examples in the class, and that's how you import assets. You have your list, and then here's the import. So it should be good as a source, but Content Hub may create a duplicate if you use the same asset. It may warn you in newer versions, but it's been a while since I've had to import a lot of stuff. So make sure. Yeah, this is a matter of making sure your source is good. But yeah, the Excel spreadsheet is the important thing, because that's kind of has your titles and your assets and all that stuff in there. So you want to make that sure that's good when you're importing it.
Yeah. So the next question is I think you have already answered, but I'll just raise the question here. How can we move it to different Content Hub instances, for example, dev, test? So that is the same thing, right? How you do the form using the file link.
Yeah, the same thing. If you want to, if you got like a brand new Content Hub instance, you can export the whole Content Hub to a different one. So there's this import export they have. So I don't know if it'll take the assets. I haven't tried it, but it should, I believe. So yeah, you can export and import the whole Content Hub if you want. If not, yeah, it's just the same thing. Set up the external component.
Yeah. Thank you, Rob, for patiently answering all this question. I'll take the last question. What are the performance considerations when enhancing Content Hub with external components?
Um, it's all going to be internal. So you know, it's either going to be internal users, so you're not a website's not hitting that is it directly, but you know, it all depends on the users when they're loading an asset. You don't want to give them a bunch of stuff they don't need, just because it will take some time to load because it is loading here on the side. And these are simple, for the most part, these are pretty simple examples, but there's nothing wrong with taking it and, you know, especially data that's important to the asset, because it doesn't take it's just as fast as, you know, the React component is going to be. It's pretty quick. You know, you're still saving them, even if it's a slightly load performance, you're still saving someone the time if you're doing like a component that like gives them information. So it saves them typing time and information on that asset. So you know, the Content Hub is pretty quick in general. It's hosted on, I believe, Azure hosted, so it's pretty fast from what I can tell. I haven't seen it slow down at all, especially, you know, and these are simple components, but it loads pretty quick. Especially coming from a C# background and MVC and stuff, and, you know, Experience Editor, this is much faster. It's a lot lighter. At the symposium, a lot of people were, I don't know if you're an Apple fan or not, but a lot of people were using MacBooks from Sitecore to do this stuff because they didn't need Visual Studio, they didn't need Windows. So it's a lot more lightweight than, you know, your typical Microsoft code.
Perfect. So with this, we are coming to the end of our webinar. So Rob, you will have